Hello and welcome to today's special EcoCast event, Optimizing Your Virtual Environment by Actual Tech Media. My name is David Davis, and I'm excited to be your moderator on today's event. We have expert presenters lined up from Pure Storage, Western Digital, and Druva. Thank you so much for joining us on today's event. I know that you're going to learn a lot, you're going to get all your questions answered, and have a chance to win some very valuable prizes. We at Actual Tech Media created the EcoCast and MegaCast event series to help you as an IT professional, which I am one myself, learn more about the latest and greatest, most innovative enterprise technology solutions to help you to do it as efficiently as possible, all in one online virtual event. You never have to leave your home or office or even your couch. Now, before we get started, we've got some housekeeping that we first need to cover. We have prizes to give away on today's event. We'll be handing out 3 $500 Tango gift cards. I'll talk more about those in just a moment. We have some poll questions for you. We want to get your thoughts, your feedback. And then we also want you to ask our expert presenters questions. These presenters have decades of experience in enterprise technology. They're here and they're excited to answer any questions that you have about today's presentations. So use the questions box there in your GoToWebinar control panel to ask as many questions as you'd like, and we'll be replying to those as quickly as we possibly can. We want this to be a social event. I'll talk about the hashtag for today's event in just a moment, but you can tweet directly from your console using the Twitter icon on the bottom, and today's hashtag will be automatically appended. And finally, resources. We want to give you some resources just to the right of the questions box on your console. It says handouts, and that's where you can download resources related to today's presentations. Now, this event is a live event, and things sometimes can and do go wrong. If they do, just be patient with us and we will correct them as quickly as possible. 99% of the time, if you have any technical difficulties, you can press refresh on your web browser and that will resolve it most of the time. If not, ask a question in the questions box and I'll do my best to help you out. Now, that being said, today's event is going to be a perfect event. That's what I'm predicting. And I'll be giving out one Tango $500 gift card after every presenter today. That's 3 gift cards. If you haven't heard of Tango gift cards, they can be exchanged online for gift cards from Amazon, Apple, Best Buy, just about any restaurant or charity you can think of. So these are the most flexible gift card out there. Now, the requirements to be eligible for the drawings for the gift cards are that you first off must be on the live event. If you're watching this event on demand, I'm sorry, the drawing has already occurred. Full legal prize terms and conditions can be found on our website, or if you go to the handouts tab right now and scroll to the bottom, you'll find a link to the prize terms and conditions. Now, through generous prize winners, we have given out thousands of dollars to charity. If you would like to help donate your prize value to charity, we would love to help you do that. So thank you in advance. Now, the hashtag for today's event is VirtEcoCast for virtualization EcoCast. I'll be monitoring the hashtag on Twitter, and I'll be following and retweeting just about anyone talking about the event. You can follow Actual Tech Media, and you can also follow me on Twitter, David M. Davis. Feel free to keep up to date on the latest in enterprise technology from our YouTube channel, our Facebook channel, and the 10 on Tech podcast. You can find links to those on the top right-hand side of your audience console. Now, before we jump into it with our first presenter, I want to do a little bit of level setting here. I was and still am a virtualization administrator, and I've seen a lot of mistakes made in virtual environments. I may or may not have made any of these mistakes before, but I know that they are being made in a lot of virtual environments out there. After I talk about the mistakes, I'll talk about the recommendations that I have on how to prevent these types of mistakes. The first one is simply running out of storage capacity and bringing all virtual machines to a sudden halt. And the sad thing about this is that this is totally preventable. But with the complexities in storage environments and in the virtual infrastructure, this happens more commonly than you might think. It's not as simple as monitoring like a single giant C drive to see if it has available disk capacity. There's a lot more complexity to it than that. With many storage systems, you have many different LUNs. You have to keep so many virtual machines on each LUN. Those virtual machines are growing, their virtual disks are growing, and a lot of companies simply don't have monitoring in place to monitor the storage capacity. Another problem is running out of storage throughput or I/O and suffering application slowdowns and performance issues. And at many companies, applications are simply just slow all the time, and people don't even realize how fast they could be if those storage bottlenecks were removed. Too many companies out there have lack of availability in their storage or compute environments. Of course, I recommend to everyone, for example, if you're running vSphere, to use vSphere High Availability and Distributed Resource Scheduler. But a lot of companies have their storage array as a single point of failure in the virtual environment. And in my opinion, that's also a big mistake. You don't want a failure in the storage to cause all applications to go down. A lot of companies also have oversized or undersized virtual machines that run out of disk storage or resources, when again, this was a mistake that was totally preventable. Too many companies also have oversized virtual machines that consume many more resources than they really should. Too many virtual environments also have data protection that's simply not tested, or in some cases, not even in place. And with constantly changing virtual environments and applications, data protection is something that has to be tested all the time. And tested to the point that you are confident you can recover every application and all data out there in a reasonable amount of time, and that those applications will actually come up and really work. And the same thing with disaster recovery. If you're hit with a ransomware attack, you don't want to feel pressured to have to pay the ransom simply because you know you can't recover your applications and data in a reasonable period of time. And then finally, too many administrators are just stressed for time and resources, and they have badly out-of-date hypervisor and management software. There could be security vulnerabilities in the software, and new management software will, in many cases, make the infrastructure perform better and help you prevent some of these mistakes. So with those mistakes in mind, here are my recommendations for optimizing your virtual environment. What can you do? Well, of course, increase storage capacity. I don't know a company out there that doesn't have an increasing consumption rate of their storage capacity. So you need to plan for that for the future. You also want to make sure that as application usage increases, you have available performance and throughput for those applications. You also want to make sure you can decrease storage latency over time, and that, more importantly, storage latency isn't increasing. Of course, you want to use high availability for compute, but you also need high availability in your storage so that storage isn't a single point of failure. I recommend virtualization management tools that will help you to identify bottlenecks before they happen and right-size your virtual infrastructure. And then, of course, you need to test your data protection and disaster recovery solutions. Test them frequently as your applications and data changes. You need to be able to be confident that you can recover anything and everything in a reasonable period of time, whatever you define that to be with your company, so that you know you're not going to have a resume generating event if something like ransomware or a natural disaster strikes your company. So those are just some of my recommendations for optimizing your virtual environment. If you have questions about optimizing your virtual infrastructure, feel free to put them there in the questions box, and I'll do my best to answer those along with our expert presenters. I'm excited to kick off today's event. You'll hear from Pure Storage, Western Digital, and Druva on how you can best optimize your virtual environment for the future. And with that, let's get started. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the first presenter on today's EcoCast event. That is Mr. Colin Gallagher, Director of Product Marketing at Pure Storage. Colin, are you with us?
I am, David. Good day.
Thanks for being on. Take it away.
Cool. Let me make sure I got the controls here. Oh, I can click the buttons. Okay, score one for this morning. I'm Colin Gallagher. I'm here to talk a little bit about Pure Cloud Data Services, but also more strategically about how we see and what we're hearing from our customers about the cloud evolving, and approaches that we can jointly work with you together to solve. If you look back in history, about 15 years ago, Amazon really started the public cloud era with the launch of AWS. And like any technology, it's gone through a sort of hype cycle with its, obviously its fanboys and its naysayers. Everything 15 years ago, everything was going to move to the cloud. Nothing was going to be on-prem. Data centers were going to close. Then people started dealing with implementation challenges, and it was like the cloud is just, a pipe dream. We're going to, have native born the cloud applications going up, being hosted there. And we've really settled, 15 years later into a much more, nuanced position where there are applications that run on the cloud today. There are applications that run on-prem. Most IT environments, no matter what survey you look at, say they're running, I think, the average of four different clouds. So, we are truly living in a multi-cloud world. The public cloud is here to stay. The hybrid cloud is here to stay. But what I'm really hearing from the CIOs I talk to, what others at Pure are hearing from, is that it's not about infrastructure anymore. Before it used to be a conversation about, does this application run on-premise infrastructure, or does this run, on cloud infrastructure? What the conversation is changing to today is really about hybrid applications. Building hybrid applications that run across multiple different types of infrastructures so they can leverage innovation from each of them as needed. And it's always great when you can eat your own dog food or drink your own champagne, as I like to say, a slightly better turn to that phrase. We have an application, Pure One, that's our system management and cloud management application for all of our array infrastructure deployed on customer premises. And this is a prime example of a multi-cloud application. Obviously, we were a startup, an early startup, and we decided to build this application in the cloud. So we built it on SaaS providers. Then as we started to scale and grow, we realized that were portions of it that, for performance and analytics that didn't work well in the cloud. So we brought those portions on-prem. We wanted to integrate it with some of our Salesforce applications to better integrate with the customer data, so we've done that. So our Pure One application is a composite application divided into multiple services that run both on Amazon AWS, they run on Salesforce.com, and they run on our own prem infrastructure, taking and feeding data from over 10,000 devices a day, processing them, providing analytics, AI, trending analysis, what-if scenarios, et cetera, for real-time customers. So this is a prime example of where we see applications going today, a hybrid application taking advantage of multiple different clouds. But if you look, it's not just kind of on-prem applications that are being hybridized. You look at what's happening with SaaS providers and public cloud vendors. They're also now offering on-prem or hybrid solutions. So the arrow is going the other way as well. So we really are kind of merging, living in this merged world where you've got multiple different applications being driven by a variety of different influences in the market. However, there are challenges with that, obviously. So again, as you go and build your applications forward, what we're really trying to do is help you build application in a world of and not or. So as you want to go and take advantage of one cloud and another cloud and another cloud, there's some things you need to do to support that application so it can be moved, so it can be componentized, so it can be built into services or microservices to really leverage the benefits of on-prem and the cloud. But that and conversation is actually hard, right? The enterprise is not very cloudy, and the cloud is not very enterprisey, right? So it's actually very hard to take something that was built on-prem and port it to the cloud, and it's very hard to take something that was built for the cloud and port it on-prem, right? More on that, right? The way in which you deploy applications on-prem is very different than in the cloud, right? On-prem, you have package apps on VMs, generally deployed in application silos, or maybe on dedicated infrastructure, whereas in the public cloud, you've got web-scale apps built on containers or bare metal, taking advantage of a variety of different services that may run across different infrastructure types. There's obviously different consumption and management experience as well. On-prem, you're dealing with dedicated hardware, often bought in CapEx and depreciated over 4 or 5, up to 8 years. And while there is a ton of automation to help on-prem management, it historically has its roots in manual management. So you're kind of automating around manual management. Whereas in the cloud, everything is on demand, consumed via CapEx. You pay for what you use. If you don't use it, you don't incur that bill. And everything is managed through APIs. So a series of APIs that allow you to programmatically interact with your infrastructure as opposed to just kind of automating, a series of manual clicks or manual CLIs in the worst case scenario. And where we really think we can help is in the data storage layer. Right? The storage approaches are very different between the cloud and on-premise. We've grown up over the last 30 years or more of having dedicated storage arrays that provide incredible resiliency native into the storage array platform itself, delivering a rich set of features, a rich set of data efficiency features that have kind of emerged over the last 10 years, performance management capabilities, et cetera, which is very different from how data is provided in the public cloud, which is simple and scalable, easy to deploy, easy to consume. However, built around a pool of shared services, not leveraging a lot of data efficiency technology, not leveraging a lot of copy efficiency technology. So really driving up the cost and how you store data. If you store 5 copies of data, you end up paying for it in 5 different times. But what we posit to you today is what if you could bring these two together. You could provide seamless orchestration for your apps across your on-prem and hosted and public cloud. What if you could provide bidirectional app mobility, be able to take an application that was designed for on-prem and easily move to the cloud, or vice versa? And what if you could provide a common set of shared rich data services for both of these application types? And that's the crux of the conversation today is really, how do you do that? How do you provide that common data architecture? Because data really makes or breaks hybrid, right? Unlike, there are tools already on that previous slide to help you move apps like Kubernetes that can help you manage and deploy apps more seamlessly. There aren't a lot of tools to help you move data from, on-premise to the cloud. And data has gravity. We're talking about large data sets, much larger than the code base of any application generally. And so being able to do that migration, being able to do that mobility and portability really requires a different approach to think about it. So you have to think about application compatibility. You have to think about API consistency both across on-prem and the cloud. You have to think about how you're going to migrate and how, what time frame you're going to migrate in and how do you provide data consistency across that migration window. And obviously you want to be able to provide innovation velocity because we're living in a developer-centric world today. And the faster we can develop and get new services to market, the faster we can drive additional revenue and get the rest of the business off our backs. So at Pure, we have a data-centric architecture that we believe is the foundation for a true unified hybrid cloud, providing services both on-prem and hosted environments as well as the public cloud, really driving fast shared data in both locations, on-demand and automated provisioning, management, and reporting, API first, whether you're on-prem or in the public cloud, providing globally secure, reliable, high availability across both deployment models, and being able to provide the ability to replicate from one to the other. So you can have your primary workloads running on-prem, but do DR in the cloud, or you can do DR between 2 different clouds, or 2 different cloud instances. Hybrid by design, obviously, in order to make all this work, you have to take hybrid into account. You can't just take something that was designed for and optimized for on-premise and sort of stretch it and refactor it to the cloud, nor can you do the same thing with the public cloud. You really have to take in these very different needs and build something that works as the best citizen in either world. And lastly, deliver something that's constantly improving and constantly on. So making sure that you're running your mission-critical workloads in the cloud. You need architecture that's been tried and true and proven for running mission-critical wherever it happens to be. So our tagline is that Pure unifies cloud. We allow you to do it in 3 different ways: by building your cloud on-prem, by allowing you to run anywhere, so deploying hybrid, and allowing you to protect everywhere. And let me double-click into each one of these relatively quickly. And give you a quick little overview of our capabilities in each of these that we're using to solve that higher level problem of building a unified hybrid cloud. What do we mean by talking about building your cloud? Really delivering storage as a service for your enterprise and web scale applications, allowing you to build your private cloud, your hybrid cloud in your own environment, in a hosted environment, and deliver storage as a service to your customers today. Even if you aren't going to run hybrid and you're one of the very small percentages of the market who's not going to, you still need to compete with cloud providers today. Cloud providers have set a level and expectation of service in the market that we all need to respond to. I have a CIO friend who describes his strategy as being the service provider of choice. because he knows that his customers, if they don't like the service level that he's delivering, if they find he's too old-fashioned, cranky, if he's still taking 3 weeks to provision storage and asking for multiple tickets to do so, they're just going to whip out their credit card, go to Amazon, and spin up some services and be up and running in a matter of hours. So that's kind of the benchmark that he's competing with, and that's the benchmark that would help decide to build your infrastructure on top of Pure on-premise. Today Pure has helped thousands of customers deploy cloud on-premise, helping them build and automate container or VM-based clouds. We're delivering storage as a service with a wide range of APIs for both block and object storage, really allowing you to get to web scale for on-premise storage as well with our Pure Storage FlashBlade, which delivers massively parallel object storage, and allowing you to consume on demand. I mean, one of the key things about acting like a service provider is being able to build and charge like a service provider. And we uniquely deliver the capability to have you buy storage as a service, no CapEx required. It's a true OpEx model. You pay for what you use and only what you use, and to deliver the level of SLA that's agreed to, and much like you would if you were going to a public cloud provider. So that's our on-prem offerings for helping you build your cloud on-prem. But let's talk more. We've been delivering that for 7+ years. We excel at that. That's not necessarily news. So let's talk about running everywhere. And really what this is allowing you the freedom to not just build your cloud on-prem, but if and when you're ready to move it, portions of your application to cloud or entire applications to the cloud, to really allow you to make it easy, make it more powerful, more agile, and deliver better value than you can get with public cloud alone. So this is our Pure Cloud Data Services, which we announced at the end of last year. It's a full set of cloud data services, really helping you build a true unified cloud that's seamlessly portable and interoperable with our on-prem capabilities that I just went through. And we provide them around block storage, around object storage, and around data protection to the cloud as well. Let me talk about our block storage offerings first. Block storage has been the foundation of mission-critical apps on-premise for decades. And we see customers who are looking to move to the cloud, looking to leverage their investment and capabilities and skills in block, and being able to port those to the cloud, without having to completely redo their applications. So we announced Cloud Block Store for Amazon Web Services. This is industrial strength cloud block storage that's been optimized and made for public cloud storage, particularly Amazon Web Service in this case. It is a virtual instance of our on-prem operating system that runs in the cloud, delivering all the same capabilities, data services, deduplication, replication, other data protection capabilities that you would get if you were running our storage array on-prem. It looks like a virtual array in the cloud, so that allows us to do what I described before, that DR to the cloud capability, where you spin up a primary array on-prem, you replicate to the virtual instance in the cloud, and then when you need to fail over, you can fail over that as well. Even better, they're both managed with our Pure One Cloud Data Management, allowing you to have one consistent management reporting interface for on-prem and the cloud as well, or even your hosted environments running, Pure Storage arrays in a hosted environment as well. I'm not going to take through the laundry list of these great things, but it's 100% software. It's a virtual instance, so you can deploy it in the cloud in a cloud-friendly model. Delivers a consistent set of APIs. Again, we use the same APIs we use on-prem as we use in the cloud. So this allows you to have consistency both on-prem as well as in the cloud. The other thing that we do is we've integrated with CloudFormation templates the way in which you provision and deploy storage in the cloud, so you can take advantage of all the learning you've done about deploying block storage in the cloud already, and do that simply with us and take advantage of the Pure capabilities. One of the ways in which we deliver additional value on top of just native naked cloud storage is we provide a tremendous amount of efficiency. We have duplication, compression, and thin provisioning on-prem. Really help big customers get the best value for the storage they're paying for, not paying for multiple copies of the same data, not forcing them to pay for multiple, really reducing the cost footprint of the storage, but still delivering a rich storage experience We've ported all those capabilities to the cloud as well. So really working to shrink the cost of your cloud storage footprint. So if you're making additional copies in the cloud for test dev, we can apply our thin provisioning, our space efficient copies, our deduping compression to that to really maximize the ROI for your cloud investment. And lastly, we reputation around fast, reliable, and secure storage, delivering mission critical performance, reliability, 5, 6 nines availability. We've taken that and extended that to the cloud, providing multi-availability zone HA, non-disruptive upgrades in the cloud, instant snaps, and data at rest encryption, all on top of your Amazon Web Service block storage today. So we're very proud to announce this. We are in public beta with this right now. If you're interested in joining the public beta, please come and talk to me afterwards, and we're happy to sign you up for it. We're starting to see a bunch of interesting use cases that customers are deploying with this. We will make this public a little bit later in the year. Just again, I mentioned that it allows you to migrate to and from the cloud. So not just having DR in the cloud, but again, you can stand up a virtual instance in the cloud, replicate from on-prem to the cloud. Once you verify that everything is up and running as like you would like to see it in the cloud, you can quiesce the array on-prem and fully migrate to the cloud, or do the DR scenario like I described before. Here we go. Yep. And as I said before, we support multiple availability zones, so you can use our active clustering technology, one of the simplest and easiest active storage solutions on the market today. You can use it now between public clouds, between two Amazon instances, to have high availability in case you want to protect against an availability zone going down. I can build this out in just time. And lastly, let me talk a little bit about data protection. A lot of our customers are telling us that they have a cloud strategy with leads in which they lead with data protection. The first thing they want to do is move data protection to the cloud. They see that as a cost-effective use of the cloud. They may be concerned about performance in the cloud, which we don't think they'll have, but it's a kind of common approach to doing this. So a lot of our customers are looking to dip their toe in the water by doing DR in the cloud first. And we have a set of capabilities that we've announced and are now shipping one of them, and we'll be shipping the other one very shortly to help you do better DR to the cloud. The key around this model is that data protection on-prem has really been driven around a disk-to-disk to tape model for the last 15 plus years or so, right? You had your primary copy that was on a disk. And again, about 10, 15 years ago, disk-based backup appliances came into vogue. You were making another copy of your primary data onto a disk-based backup appliance. And then you have to protect that disk-based backup appliance in case it failed, so you were likely replicating it to another disk-based backup appliance off-site. And then finally, for long-term archive, you were moving off to tape, putting on a truck and shipping it to a storage facility like Iron Mountain or someplace else. The challenge with this disk-to-disk to tape approach was really, while it provided great backup capabilities, you were pulling data off of the production systems very quickly, allowing you to meet your backup windows. It was actually, when you needed to recover, restore speeds were slow. Most purpose-built backup appliances restore data 10 times slower than they back it up. So if you're just making your backup windows, multiply that by 10 times when you actually want to do a restore. They're not great at parallel operations, and they're really not designed for performance when you need it most, when your data is unavailable. The other thing that the challenge with them is that they see, as you can see on this slide, multiple backup silos. You have your primary backup appliance farm, you have your secondary backup appliance farm, and largely within these, when you ran out of space within one PBBA, you have to deploy another one. And so you had some workloads on one, some workloads on the other. You weren't getting the benefits of dedupe and compression across both of them, so you were losing some economics there. But at the same time, you had multiple things to manage. I've talked to customers who were trying to manage, and optimize placement of workloads in each one of these, and it just ends up becoming a nightmare. It becomes like I described, the guy in the circus spinning the plates on stage. The more and more plates you add, the more likely the plate's going to fall down and break. And it's very expensive single-use infrastructure, right? You're standing up another, array, so to speak, just to maintain your backups, and then replicating another array just to protect those backups. And so it ends up becoming a pretty complex and pretty expensive solution. And it doesn't solve the problems inherent with tape, which was the original intent of purpose-built backup appliances, which is that tapes are fragile. They're harder to manage than hardware. You need to get them in the correct order, and you need to make sure you have all the tapes when you need to do a restore. They're highly serial, and this data, which may represent years and years of your business data, is sitting off-site, either providing a security risk or providing no additional business value, not allowing you to access it easily and mine it when you need it. And what we see the world moving to is a flash to cloud model, in which your primary data sits on flash today. You back up for fast recovery to a near flash data store. This leverages the power of flash to both do rapid backups, but also rapid recovery back and restore back into your primary systems as needed. And then for long-term retention, you use cost-effective cloud object storage, which is inherently more reliable and available than tapes. It allows you to leverage that data for test and dev if you want to see fit. It allows you to run analytics on it, and a variety of things. So it makes that what would have been cold data sitting on a tape or on a replicated backup appliance someplace warm or even hot as needed. So to solve this challenge, we're doing two different things. We have a product called CrossMap, which we announced at the end of last year and just started shipping last week. So thank you. You're from the first week of the year that we've been shipping it since last Friday with our 5.2 software for Purity. This is the ability to do snaps to the public cloud. We've had a portable snapshot technology for several years where you can take a snap off of our flash arrays and move them to a flash blade or NFS data store or other capabilities. We've now extended that portable snap to snaps directly to Amazon Web Services, to an AWS S3 bucket. So you can store these replicas off-prem. You can replicate them obviously in between things as well, in between Amazon instances as well, sorry. But the secret sauce behind this is that our portable snapshot technology is self-contained and self-describing. Everything you need to restore that snapshot is contained within that image. And by the way, someone says, oh, but you're pushing a lot of data across a link to the public cloud. You're going to drive up my cloud ingress and egress costs. No, so the first snapshot is obviously a full snapshot. After that, it's just incremental and compressed. So we're really leveraging, our IP around space efficiency. We're applying that to these snapshots to not only just minimize the storage costs, but to minimize the link transmission costs as well. And obviously with Pure One, you have a full-based cloud management. You can see where your snaps are across your environment, whether they're stored on your primary flash array, whether they're stored someplace else in your on-prem environment, or whether they're stored in the cloud. By providing both the ability to provide a snap to a local flash store as well as one to the cloud, you get local recovery at the speed of flash. One of the things when I talk to customers about backup and recovery to and from flash, they say, well, isn't flash expensive? Not when you apply DB, not when you apply compression, and not when you're using it just for those workloads that you want to be able to recover quickly, and not using it for long-term retention. But the other reason to back up to flash is that only a flash storage device can deliver the performance back to your primary flash array to saturate it. So, you're investing a lot in a high-performance production storage array. You will need to be able to saturate that with data if and when it comes that you need to restore from something very quickly. So when seconds matter, you actually want something that can saturate all that full flash array, taking advantage of it to deliver restore in a highly efficient, timely manner. The other thing that we're providing a preview of today, and check back with us in a little bit, and we'll provide some more details. We acquired some technology in the fall called StoreReduce, and we pre-announced that we're delivering StoreReduce for Amazon Web Services. It's an object storage deduplication engine really designed to help you back up your entire environment. You can back up your pure storage environment, but it works with multiple backup vendor softwares to deliver really cost-effective retention and data reuse in the cloud. We work with the existing backup software vendors. We present ourselves as an S3 interface. So just like you would use your backup software to talk to an S3 interface to the cloud directly, you can talk to StoreReduce as an intermediary. StoreReduce provides, again, a local store for rapid recovery on-prem, leveraging Pure Storage Flash Blade, and then provides deduplicate replication to Amazon S3, allowing you to cost-effectively store that in an Amazon S3 bucket And obviously, you can use cloud-based instances of your existing backup software to recover that software in the cloud, that data natively in the cloud if needed. Again, it's object storage technology leveraging an object-first approach. It's cloud native, built on top of the S3 interface. It is a tremendous dedupe and compression engine, allowing us to significantly reduce costs, by up to 97% for your backups, really enabling cloud storage to become highly cost-effective and effectively replace disk and tape. It also is highly scalable and provides a single namespace. You can run multiple store-reduce instances as you need to scale performance. It scales linearly. You deploy another store-reduce instance on-prem, point additional backup targets at that, and it works in parallel. But unlike purpose-built backup appliances, it is a single dedupe namespace across all those instances. So you get the performance of multiple instances, but you also get the benefit of a single namespace providing dedupe across all of that, giving you the best deduplication capabilities possible. And by the way, it was named a Gartner Cool Storage vendor last year in 2018. Just right before we acquired them, so it was like icing on the cake to it. And as I said, we're hard at work rapidly productizing this in a new Pure Storage product. So that's a quick overview of how Pure is helping your unified cloud build a bridge between your on-prem and your cloud-based infrastructure, really helping you deliver a true unified experience rather than a hodgepodge of experiences optimized, some for on-prem, some for in the cloud. Focused on those three key areas that we talked about, helping you build your on-premise cloud, helping you run your applications on-prem, in the cloud, or both simultaneously, and lastly, delivering data protection everywhere, both on-prem, in hosted environments, and in the public cloud.
Thanks for being on the event today, Colin.
No, my pleasure. Thanks.
All right, great presentation there by Colin. Thank you, Colin, and thank you, Pure Storage, for joining us on today's event. If you'd like to learn more about Pure Storage, of course, check out the Pure Storage website. They've got all the details there on the products that you just talked about or just heard about. While I announce our prize winner, I also want to point out the question that's on the screen. This is the first poll question we have on today's event, and it says, what additional information would you like about the Pure Storage solution that you just heard about? So just select your response there. You can select one, you can select multiple, whatever you would like. I also want to call your attention to the handout that's available for download in the Handouts tab there. And it's the Hybrid Cloud Storage Buyer's Guide if you're interested in cloud storage. And if something that Colin talked about there really resonated with you and your company, make sure you check that out. You can download that. It's in PDF format right there in your audience console on the Handouts tab. Thank you, Pamela, for the comment. Nice presentation. Appreciate that. Thank you for all the other comments that came in, where everyone's from, how they're doing today. And thank you again for being on the event. We really love our audience, and we really appreciate your support. So our first Tango gift card that we're giving away today, $500 Tango gift card, that is going out to Sue Daniels from California. Congratulations, Sue Daniels from California. And if you haven't answered the poll question on the screen yet, now is the time to do it. I'll give you just a moment to answer that question. All right. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to answer that question. We've got two more $500 gift cards to give away. Let's see. Renee says she's having trouble submitting the answer to the question. No worries. I would try a refresh on your browser if you're having trouble with the submit button, or maybe resize the slides window a little bit there to make it a little bit larger. That might help. All right. Excellent. Thank you, everyone who answered that poll question. Let's move on to the next presenter on today's event. I'm excited to introduce Mr. Harrison Waller. He is a Senior Manager of Technical Marketing at Western Digital. Take it away, Harrison.
Okay, great. Thanks for letting me jump in here and get my little time slot today. Let me just say again, my name is Harrison Waller, Senior Manager of Technical Marketing at Western Digital, part of the Data Center Systems Division, working on the IntelliFlash storage array. And what I want to do is kind of dive right in. My time's limited, But what I want to do is highlight some of the ways that an IntelliFlash array gives you a hands-free form of optimizing your virtual environment. Let's dive right in here and take a look at the agenda. I'm going to focus on some of the core features of the IntelliFlash array, that being compression and deduplication. The concept of a unified storage. I'll get into some of the integration aspects that the IntelliFlash array has. It's going to be VMware centric because ESXi is kind of the stalwart in the industry. So I'll show you how we've tightly integrated with the ESXi primitives that ESXi provides. Then I'll show you some management and how you can optimize your environment with better tools. And again, a VMware focused discussion there around the IntelliFlash vSphere plugin that we have. Then kind of to tie it all together, I've got a little recorded demo, and then we'll come out of that and we'll do some Q&A. So let's look at some of the core features of the IntelliFlash array. And the big ones, inline compression and deduplication. You hear that a lot. It's tossed around everywhere. It's sort of a Me Too kind of thing that everyone has. But I really want to take some time and show you why it's such a perfect fit for virtualization. It really is like peas and carrots. And one of the big benefits is the fact that it acts as a performance multiplier, delivering consistently higher performance. But let's actually dig into it and find out why. So what we have here in the IntelliFlash array is a tiering system for the memory types, the media types that are within the array. And the first tier I want to look at is that performance tier as I/O is coming into the array. And I'm going to focus initially here on a hybrid array, and then I'll show you how the all-flash array works in a little bit more simple fashion. So I/O comes into the array and lands in that performance tier. That's where we do our inline compression. We'll then take a checksum of that new compressed data block. Then we'll write it to either NVDIMMs or the write cache. At that point, we'll acknowledge the host, and then we will destage that data down into the capacity tier. Now, this is a hybrid we're going to look at first. So that capacity tier consists of spinning disk. So down there, it sits happily until it's read from again. If based on certain counters that we have in the array, it's being read a lot, it will land in this other tier, the caching and metadata tier, which for a hybrid array is SSD flash. It sits there compressed for easier access, so the array can deliver a much better performance. So from that metadata and caching layer, it will jump back up to the performance tier, get decompressed, and then out it will go to service the host. So that's kind of the flow in and out for a hybrid array. Now, an all-flash array doesn't have that capacity tier consisting of spinning disk. It's a little more simplified. We combine the caching metadata layer and the capacity tier into a single tier like that, but it works essentially the same. So what you end up with in these performance tiers here is uniquely stored data. It's been deduped, it's been compressed, and because of that, you're able to put more in those tiers, and those tiers are the layers that give you that higher performance. Now, we have a little thing on our UI which shows you the cache hit ratio. That's showing you what's being hit out of that performance tier, that top tier. The higher that number, the more data that's being serviced out of that performance tier, giving you a better end user experience. So you want that to be as high as possible, and I'll show you that in the demo. Now, I did brush over it quickly. As data came in, we compressed, then we checksummed and offloaded to capacity. When we read the data again, we checksum again. So we're always checksumming to ensure data integrity. So with compression and deduplication helping you optimize your virtualized environment sort of hands-free, let's look at the concept of a unified storage array, which the IntelliFlash array is. We are both native block and file, offering you Fiber Channel, iSCSI, NFS, and CIFS, all-in-one system, which allows you to consolidate your workloads. You could, for example, have all of your VMs running on one side of your storage array, and on the other side is all the user data or home directories. So you can consolidate multiple projects all from a single storage array. We've got Snapshot and Replication, giving you VM consistent snapshots and replication. To help optimize the usage of the ESXi hosts and the storage network, we are highly integrated with VMware's ESXi Primitives. And the end goal, the main goal of those things, like I said, is to offload the tasks from the ESXi host, offload the traffic on the storage network, and put it on the storage array, because most of the time those tasks are all within the array anyway. Now, this next slide here, I sort of hesitated whether or not I wanted to actually put this in the deck or not. But I really wanted to show you how tightly integrated the IntelliFlash storage array is with ESXi's primitives. And it's a huge list. You can kind of see it's a real eyesore. So let me just put a little block around some middle primitives there. Those right there, those all focus around thin provisioning. The primitives above and below that little square there are focusing on file system specific and clone specific primitives for block and file respectively. One I want to highlight here is this space reclamation primitive. Now, as you create VMs, delete VMs, you're doing all kinds of writes and deletes on the array through ESXi, it's going to get fragmented. And there's a primitive available that allows you to reclaim some of that space. And up through VMFS version 5, it was always a manual CLI task. As of VMFS version 6, it's now an automated task, and you can turn it on or off via the vSphere UI. When it's on, it's got a low priority, so it's not burning up your ESXi host resources, but it is hands-free and automatically running, which is kind of a neat feature. These top three here, I'm going to take a look at those a little more closely to give you a flavor of what these primitives actually do in the next slide. And then this file object level clone primitive, this speeds up dramatically the amount of time it takes to clone a VM. And I'm going to show you that in the demo, and I'll contrast it with a couple other methods of cloning to really highlight how fast it is. So looking at three of these primitives here, let's just start on the left here, this block 0 primitive. When you're creating a VM, ESXi needs to zero out the space needed for that VM on the array. And rather than send a billion different commands to zero out each little portion, it'll just send one command and our array will take care of the rest, zeroing out everything that's needed. If you look at full copy, when you're cloning or migrating a VM, rather than bog down the network, take resources away from the ESXi host, the ESXi host will send a single request and the array will take care of the rest. Most of the time, the movement is between LUNs on the array or between a LUN and a share, but there's no need to take up resources on the ESXi host or bog down that network. And then lastly, let's look at the hardware assisted locking. And this one's kind of interesting. Without the primitive, if an ESXi host needs to update metadata on a VM, it has to lock the entire LUN, blocking other ESXi hosts that have VMs that are on that array. But with the primitive, the ESXi host can just lock down that specific VM file, allowing other ESXi hosts to still maintain and update metadata on the other VMs. So you can see here, all of these primitives are here to free up resources on the ESXi host and free up the storage network, thereby optimizing your virtualized infrastructure. Now, everybody talks about optimizing capacity, performance, and management always gets overlooked. Having an optimized way to manage your infrastructure can save you time and can save you money. So we provide a very intuitive UI. We've got integration with VMware's vSphere and Microsoft's SCVMM. We've got VM level statistics if you're using NFS or NFS with a VMFS data store. And then again, this VMware centric highlight here is the vSphere plugin that we have. And with that, you can manage your IntelliFlash storage array from within VMware's vSphere web client. You can provision storage, monitor performance, take snapshots, clone and replicate those snapshots, and even pinpoint noisy neighbors. So that's a really quick look at some of the core features of the IntelliFlash storage array, some of the integration that we've got around VMware's ESXi with the VAAI primitive adoption, and then lastly, the management aspect of optimizing your infrastructure. Now I'm going to tie all those together in this demo here. It's pre-recorded, so just sit back and take a look-see. All right, let's get started with this demo here. And if you were going to log into the IntelliFlash array, this would be the first page you would see when you log in. This is the dashboard page. But before I go into all the details on here, let me just give you the setup. What I've done is I've created 16 virtual machines. A handful of those are doing some simulated I/O, and we're going to kind of walk through and see all the things that you might see in a working virtualized environment. Starting off, up at the top here, you can see this data reduction number. Now, that number is calculated out of the original data. And all of this data, it's not mine, it's a shared machine, but I've done my best to sort of highlight the compression and the deduplication that you'll get with a virtualized environment. After all those 16 virtual machines are deduped and compressed on the array, you end up with 224 gigs out of the 855 gigs that were originally written to the machine or would have been written to the machine, saving you about 74% of the space. That, in the end, gives you the calculation 3.8x data reduction. So about 4 to 1 you're saving with dedupe and compression. Most customers see about 5 to 1. Some see as high as 8, 9, or 10 to 1, depending upon their virtualized environment. Down at the bottom down here, you see the protocol statistics that are going on. Right now we're looking at all protocols, giving you the average latency on the system, total IOPS, and the throughput. You can get a little more granular over here off to the right, where you get your top 10 or your top bottom LUNs, shares, or VMs based on latency, IOPS, and throughput. Right now we're set up top 10 shares throughput. As we go further into this demo and we install the VAAI plugin, we're going to get that VM granularity that I talked about previously. It's pretty simple to install the plugin and that VAAI primitive. So let's jump right into that. Come over here to Settings, Application Aware or App Aware, and we're going to add the vCenter server to this array. And it's pretty simple. Just punch in the IP address, enter a username, and the password. And I'm going to go ahead and click the Quiesce button here. That way, with VM tools installed on all the VMs, it'll properly quiesce the VMs where you're doing snapshots, replication, or any type of migration. Let's test it. Test was good. Now let's add it. Okay, now the vCenter server is on the array here, and you can kind of notice some settings. Quiesce, yes. vSphere 6.5, it's a good connection. Not registered yet, and the plugin's not installed yet. So now let's do that. So to install the plugin, you just come over here, Plugin Management, click Install, give it the host name and address. That's the same vCenter server that we just entered. It knows all the credentials, and we'll click Install. So now the connection is good. We've got one final thing to do, and that's register it over on the vCenter side. We'll do that in a little bit, but I wanted to highlight one other thing on this page before we jump over to the vSphere web client. The last thing I wanted to show was the installation of the VAAI plugin, and that has to do with the file object level cloning portion of the demo I'm going to do. So to be able to do that, we got to make sure the plugin has been installed on that ESXi host. And we can do that by simply coming into here and going into this part of the menu here, ESXi server configuration. So now it's seeing all of the ESXi hosts that are being managed by that vSphere vCenter server. And the one that has all the VMs is this one here. If you click on that, a couple things highlight: uninstall the plugin, install or upgrade it. You can do it right here if you want, or you can click on configuration here and do a couple other things as well as install the plugin. All right, so here's the configuration page for that ESXi host. And you can see right here, SATP, that's the multipathing settings. That's already been installed on the ESXi host. And then the plugin, you can see it's already been installed as well, and it tells you the version. I've already done it just to save time, but I wanted to show that to you. So with the plugin installed and the vCenter server settings essentially complete here, the one last thing we had to do is register it over on the vCenter side. Let's go do that now. All right, here we are on the vSphere web client. To do the final step of registering the IntelliFlash plugin is to come over here, click on Actions, Register, and put in the array IP address, and then click Register. All right, the action is complete. Let's close this window, do a refresh. There it is, all registered. Tells me the version number that's running over there on the OS. And now to actually use it, let's just click Go To. All right, I've opened up the windows to give us a little more real estate. Now you're seeing a slimmed down version of the IntelliFlash UI from within vSphere. And you can see some stuff over here, the data stores and VMs that are on there. If you click the Data Store tab, it shows all the data stores that are on the array being used by the ESXi hosts. And then finally, I've talked about it a lot, here's the little VM tab. This is the VM level statistics that we have for VMs that are running on NFS shares. And this allows you to go in and find that noisy neighbor. Maybe there's a particular user that is doing a little bit too much downloading from the internet or something like that. So let's just sort these real quick and see if we can see something suspicious. This guy right here with 100 megs down per second, that's a little high compared to some of these other ones. That seems a little excessive for somebody that's just doing PowerPoint presentations and Word documents. So he looks like a noisy neighbor. So a very, very handy tool to be able to sniff out all the VMs and see how much of your bandwidth is being used. So with that, I got one final thing to show you, and that's the file object level cloning. All right, before I do it, I just want to show you exactly what I'm going to be doing to contrast the speed with which you get cloning with this primitive. The first clone I'm going to do is from a local disk of the ESXi host, and it's going to go across the network, and it's going to be slow. That's to be expected. The next one I'm going to do is from that share one location over to another share. That's using a primitive called xcopy. Then the last one I'm going to do is this file object level cloning, which is going to go right from share one right back to itself. So those are the three types. Let's take a look. All right, looks like it's done. Right down here, started at about 5:13, ended about 5:22. Not too bad, but I'll be honest, I had to go home and go to the gym. But let's go on to the next one now. This is going to be from one share on the array to another share on the array. And we'll take this one and we'll clone it and we'll see how fast it goes. This is going to be using the primitive called xcopy. Hey, that was way faster. Started at 10:07:43, ended about 30 seconds later. So a huge improvement with that primitive. Now the file object level cloning, let's take a look at that one, and I will go right from share one right back to itself. And done. Look at that. 10:09:02, 10:09:04, 2 seconds. 2 seconds to clone that VM. That is the power of file object level cloning using that VAAI primitive. So there you go. A little bit of the UI showing you the compression and dedupe, showing you how our integration with both the plugin and the VAAI primitives really help you optimize your virtualized environment. Hope you enjoyed it.
All right, great demo there. Thank you so much, Harrison. We are going to do some Q&A now, and we're going to do the prize announcement here in just a moment. So let me pop up this poll question. It says, what additional information would you like about the Western Digital solution that Harrison just demonstrated there? You can select one or you can select multiple, and we'll just leave that up. Harrison, are you ready for some Q&A?
Yeah, do I get a chance to win that card, by the way? No? All right.
I'm sorry, only for attendees, but maybe next time.
All right.
Let's see. I like this comment from Derek. Derek said, I don't use this word often, but that was amazing. So I think you got some good feedback here. Another person, Pamela, said, great demo. So lots of good feedback on the demo. I know that took a lot of time to create, but thank you for creating it for the audience. First question that came in, they're asking about the VM level statistics. They say that they're cool for NFS, but do you have anything for Fiber Channel and iSCSI as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've actually been asking for it too, and I've recently been talking to engineering, and it is in the pipeline. Fiber Channel and iSCSI will be coming up in a future release, probably late summer, early fall, somewhere around there. But all three protocols will have that VM level statistics in the near future. Yeah, good question. Isn't that cool, though?
Okay. Yeah, that is very cool. A question just came in. Chris is asking, do you support any other hypervisors with a similar level of detail?
So we do support Hyper-V, and I see that in the question there. And we do have SC-VMM support, maybe not as tight of integration on those primitives and speeding up your cloning processes, but we're working towards that. And the SC-VMM integration is pretty decent from their UI perspective. If I had to grade it, VMware is maybe an A or an A+, and SC-VMM might be like a B+ or something as far as the integration goes.
Okay, nice. Another question here. You described compression and dedupe, how it's done, and mentioned different tiers of storage. Is your array a tiered storage array?
Oh, wow. It's funny you asked that. There was some emails flying around earlier last week kind of about that. And, I may have misrepresented exactly how it works, but we're not the traditional tiered storage array where you assign a particular performance level to a certain kind of data. We treat data all the same. We've got the concept of a storage pool, and all data is treated the same in there. And if it's accessed a lot, it's going to be up in those higher tiers of, the DRAM level. So no, we're not that traditional type. We treat all data the same.
Okay, nice. Another question here. You mentioned plugins several times in the demo. Is it just one plugin that's being installed in ESXi or vSphere?
So there were two I was discussing. So the main one that gives you all that management functionality within the vSphere web client, that's our VCP, the vSphere client plugin. And that gives you the VM level statistics from within vSphere. And I should mention, you also get those VM level statistics on the IntelliFlash Array UI on that main dashboard page. So you can see your VMs there. The other plugin I mentioned was that VAAI primitive. And that doesn't need to be installed to be able to manage the array from vSphere, but that's what's going to give you that file object level cloning capability once installed on the ESXi host.
Got it. Okay. Let's see here. Another question. they're interested in doing replication, from one data center to the other. Can you kind of talk about what they would need? Would they just buy 2 IntelliFlash arrays, and is replication included, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a big, fat, slow ball pitch. That's kind of a neat thing with the IntelliFlash array. I always sort of talk about the ability to be able to do replication without having the same type of storage array. Customers that may start off with a hybrid array, or maybe one of the lower end ones, they don't have to just get rid of it when they're done. You can actually use that as a replication target. So if you're ready to move up to all flash and you've got a hybrid lying around, you can use that hybrid as your replication target. So it doesn't have to be the exact same model, which is, I think, kind of neat. And then we support, one-to-one, one-to-many. We do cascading replication. So it's very flexible in that sense.
Yeah, that is nice. I like you don't have to have 2 identical arrays, because that can significantly reduce the cost.
Yeah, and it really extends your ROI on existing equipment. You don't have to just sort of relegate it to something else. You can still use it.
And then just replicate the data that's, maybe for your tier 1 applications.
Yeah, and you can use it as a replication target, but you could also use the array for other projects you're working on. So it can do everything.
Okay, excellent. And if people are interested in learning more about the IntelliFlash arrays, what's the typical first step? What do you recommend? Maybe someone has an aging array and they're looking to replace it, and they're considering IntelliFlash. Do they contact Western Digital directly, or go through their local VAR? What do you recommend?
Gosh, now you're talking sales stuff. I'm not a sales guy. I would, and I want to make sure you guys land in the right spot. I just talk with the local VAR. I think that's the best way to go. You could even email me and I'll point you in the right direction. But sorry, you're getting a sales question at me, and I'm an engineer, so.
No problem. Sorry to throw you a hardball question there.
Yeah, that was the hardest one.
But I think that's all the time we have for the live Q&A. There's a few more technical questions. They're still in the queue for you. If you can check those out and maybe get back to them. I appreciate the live demo and the time that it took you to put that together. Thank you so much for being on the event today.
Yeah, thanks, David. Thanks, everybody.
I'm excited to introduce our next presenter on today's EcoCast. That is Mr. Shay Verma, Director of Product Marketing at Druva. Shay, are you with us?
I am. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being on, Shay. Take it away.
All right. Let's see. Morning, afternoon. I'm not sure where everyone is joining from. But my name is Shay Verma. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Druva. Druva is for those of you that are not familiar with what Druva does, Druva is a SaaS cloud data protection and management solution that helps organizations with their backups recovery, long-term retention, and disaster recovery requirements. The key thing about Druva is we do this with a direct-to-cloud model, and we are built on AWS. We do not require any hardware or software, and at the end of the day, we can help organizations save up to north of 50% compared to legacy solutions. Having said that, I'll just go ahead and get started directly. If you see what's happening in the industry, legacy solutions require hardware, software, backup servers, tapes, and some sort of archival mechanism offsite. And now organizations are looking to the cloud to start leveraging the cloud for secondary data. Either it could be backups, long-term retention, or even DR in the cloud. But one of the things that we're seeing as a result of a lot of the things with the shift to the cloud and in the journey to the cloud, it's becoming extremely complex to manage on-premises infrastructure, especially for data protection, and also with a large footprint across the world with remote offices spread across. Compliance becomes very, very complicated. Retention becomes very, very complicated. Storage media adds a lot of cost to your existing infrastructure, and of course, naturally maintaining it and the cost associated with secondary data protection, hardware or any hyperconverged hardware also adds to the complexity and cost of it. As a result, business continuity becomes very critical, and maintaining uptime for all those systems is extremely complicated as well. So now when you take the scenario and you multiply it across all the remote offices, you can see the kind of situation organizations are facing, or the enterprise is facing, when it comes to data protection from a legacy standpoint. And if you look at what's happening also is that lots of organizations are looking to cloud, as I mentioned earlier. In fact, over 90% of organizations will migrate their VM workloads to the cloud. 42% are anticipating a mixed hybrid cloud environment, and organizations are looking to the cloud from a DR perspective, over 80% are looking to get some sort of a DR in the cloud solution that helps them mitigate any required managed services or an extra site for asynchronous, synchronous replication, because it really, at the end of the day, is very complex to manage and is very, very cost prohibitive. And so that's where Druva really comes in. We currently have over 4,000 customers under our belt. We have over 100 petabytes on AWS under management, and we are actually one of Amazon's top 5 storage partners. If you were to see how many partners AWS have or has, getting the top 5 spot is a big. It speaks for on its own towards the credibility of Druva in terms of what it's been able to achieve, and also in the amount of data that we have in the cloud. Some of our marquee customers are shown in this slide as well, that we help protect their data. So with Druva's model, as I mentioned earlier, it's a direct-to-cloud model. Doesn't matter where your infrastructure is. It could be on-premises, it could be a Linux box, Microsoft Server, SQL Server, Oracle database, any virtualized environment, or even NAS boxes, or it could be in the cloud, like VMware Cloud on AWS, for example. We will help protect all the data that gets generated in such environments and unify that in the cloud. When I say unify that in the cloud, there are a couple of things I'd like to mention. First, the data is globally source-side deduplicated before the data hits the Druva Cloud platform, which is built on AWS. We don't have any co-location. We don't have any private cloud. It's all built on AWS. And we auto-tier data from S3 to SCIA and Glacier as well, and pass on the cost savings to the organizations that we're helping protect the information on. The key thing here is that the data that we are actually sending to cloud is source-side global deduplication. We only store a single copy of the data in the cloud. There is no multiple copies of your data as a result, which helps in reducing your storage. Which brings us to the consumption model that Druva helps to provide, in the sense that organizations will only pay for data stored in the cloud, and that's it. There are no egress charges as a result, and it is post-global deduplication, so the storage also is minimized. And as you can see, you move from a CapEx model to an OpEx model because you only end up paying for data stored in the cloud, and so it is completely consumption-based. There's no stranded capacity that you actually end up paying for. Once the data is in the cloud, you can naturally recover that at any given point, anywhere of your choice, and also have a DR in the cloud solution. We can bring up your VMs directly in your VPC such that at the time of a disaster, within minutes, you can bring up recovered VMs in the cloud, and there's a whole mechanism that I'll talk about this in a few slides that can help recover your VMs in the event of a disaster. As you can see from this helps in significantly reducing your cost. And with the capabilities that we have, you no longer require any DR managed service providers like the SunGuards and the likes of it, or require any disaster recovery sites as well, to which you are asynchronously or synchronously replicating towards. So once you have it, we can help provide a solution for DR in the cloud for virtualized environments as well. So with our model, as I've already talked a little bit about, it's a true cloud-native solution that is delivered as a service, which essentially means is that we were built on AWS, leveraging all their services that they provide to provide you with a solution that is delivered as a service for data protection and disaster recovery. You move from a CapEx to OpEx model that I talked about. We can immediately deliver on the promise of scale, such that it is economically viable for those organizations that are looking to the cloud from a scale and efficiency standpoint. Naturally, elastic capacity comes to mind. You can use the resources in the cloud as much as you want, and you pay for the services that you're using in the cloud. You're not paying for anything that you're not actually using. And then we are able to deliver newer to any software vendor that takes anywhere between a 9-month or a year or 6 months to release any new features. And we can deploy new features in the cloud across all our customers, which also means that you don't have to maintain any software, you don't have to patch anything. We take care of all the plumbing for you in the background so that you don't have to worry about it. And then naturally, since we are built on AWS, we have the global reach for organizations to leverage. So if, say, you're in Germany and for data residency laws or data sovereignty, you don't want your data leaving your particular region, you have the ability to leverage those particular storage locations of AWS in your region so that data never leaves your region and you can comply to those regulations that you are required to adhere to. That's one of the key things as well, is that AWS, as they increase their footprint and as they add on services, we are able to leverage a lot of those services and make that available to organizations. And also from a footprint perspective, if they have a completely new region, we can immediately deploy our services from a data protection standpoint to any organization leveraging it in that particular region, so that you could immediately get started without the need for any hardware or software that you have to procure first that could take up to 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and you can immediately get started within minutes with Druva as well. So this is really, at a very high level, our architecture. As I mentioned, we are a true cloud-native solution. We're built in the cloud, so we leverage all the microservices and services from AWS. So on the left side is essentially your workloads. It could be on premises or in the cloud. And on the right side top is RDS, DynamoDB to save the metadata and the data naturally, S3, Glacier, and tier the data in Glacier as well. So once your data has been backed up, we unify all the data in the Druva Cloud platform. And at the time of an event, of a disaster, we can bring up recovered VMs or EC2 instances in the cloud by converting them to EBS volumes, taking a snapshot, and then eventually converting it back to a volume so that we can boot up EC2 instances. I'll talk a little bit more about it in details in the next few slides. The key thing here to mention is that from a disaster recovery perspective, once we bring it up in the cloud, it is your AWS account. It's your VPC, which essentially means that we have no access to your data at any given point. And that's one of the reasons why we leverage this model, so that your security posture is never compromised. So from a disaster recovery perspective, we can meet RPOs of an hour and really RTO of minutes. Once the data is in the cloud, you can naturally leverage our service to bring up recovered services like your recovered VMs immediately. It's a unified all-in-one backup and disaster recovery solution. With a click of a button, you can either fail over to your VPC and move across from region to region or from account to account. And also with the fail of a button, you can also fail back to the original location where that VM was originally running. It's all fully automated, which provides orchestration, recovery orchestration, and automated runbook execution as well, which means as applications become more interdependent and more complex, the VMs that you have to bring up, the virtual machines that you have to bring up become more complicated in terms of how they come up relative to one another for application consistency requirements or application requirements. And with that, we have full runbook automation and execution built into the platform. You can add scripts into it to add delays. You can bring up a particular VM in any particular order, completely left up to you how you want to define it. Once it's defined, then just with a single click of a button, you can fail over and fail back essentially to the place of your choice. It's all recovered in your AWS account. Security is a big concern for Druva. We make sure that we never have access to customer data, and so it's all happening within your VPC. We have full reporting capabilities, and you can try this out as many times as you want. You can test it out for as long as you want to meet any compliance requirements from a DR perspective as well. Once the data is in the cloud, you can naturally fail over into any VPC of your choice, your account essentially, and then you can also move your workloads from one region to the other region, or from one account to the other account, because naturally sometimes accidents do happen even in the cloud. And so now protection of your EC2 instances or your recovered VMs we provide complete protection from that service, from that vision as well, directly when it is in the cloud as well. So we provide a holistic solution from starting from on-premises to the cloud, and when you're in the cloud, we can also naturally protect that as well from a disaster recovery purpose or from just a backup and recovery capability as well. In terms of data protection, even though the slide says VMware data protection, it's actually supposed to be virtualized data protection. We support Hyper-V and VMware, fully integrated with vCenter and SCVMM. When it comes to VMware or Hyper-V. It's a hypervisor level backup for application consistent backups, which essentially means we quiesce the VM and then we back up and we take snapshots of those, and then the recovery capability is naturally granular or at the disk level or at a VM level. All is built into the platform, and we support VMware and Hyper-V with Nutanix as well at a guest level, which is not indicated in this. As I mentioned, the recovery options that are available to you are at a disk level or at a full VM level, or you can even do granular recovery. Basically, we'll bring up the disk into the cloud and you can access your files and then recover just a particular file to meet your RTO and RPO requirements quite easily from that perspective. Druva is actually one of the only VMware Cloud on AWS SaaS certified solutions. Keep in mind, I'm really emphasizing on SaaS here because we are the only SaaS solution for data protection because there is no hardware and software, as I mentioned earlier. And so from a solution, we are a SaaS solution, and so we're the only SaaS certified solution for VMware Cloud on AWS. If your VM is on premises and you move that to the cloud, we intelligently back that up such that you don't have to back up the full VM again once the location is changed. We intelligently pick up from where we backed it up such that we only do incremental backups forever. This provides a seamless data protection solution across your VM, irrespective of where it resides, and it has been quite beneficial to lots of organizations that are leveraging their hybrid posture in the way of protecting their workloads, whether it's on premises or in the cloud as well. It's deployed as a proxy or basically an agentless solution. The agent does all the global deduplication source side and make sure that only a single copy of that is ever stored in the cloud. And since it's an all-in-one solution for backups, recovery, long-term retention, and disaster recovery, you have a single pane of glass to manage your workloads on premises or in the cloud as well, and you can have all these orchestration capabilities in a unified platform or through a single control plane in the cloud as well. At the end of the day, as I mentioned, we do source-side global deduplication, which essentially has impacted organizations from the fact of reducing their storage costs significantly. And in fact, you will see that on average, we see anywhere between 2 to 4x storage reduction because of our source-side global deduplication. That helps in making sure only a single copy of the data is ever stored in the cloud, and you only pay for data stored in the cloud, so that reduces your storage costs as well. Because it's a pure consumption-based model, you only consume what you use in the cloud, and hence you only pay for those resources. There is no payments or CapEx model for stranded capacity. You don't have to worry about storage that you buy today in the event you will use it in 5 years, and as a result, utilization of that is not being at 100%, and you don't have to maintain storage as well. So with this model, organizations literally just pay for what is stored in the cloud and they move along with that. At the end of the day, what this boils down to is that from a backup recovery, long-term retention, and DR solution perspective, with an all-in-one solution and a single pane of glass to manage it without requiring any hardware, global dedupe that's extremely efficient, which is also patented as well, and you only pay for data stored in the cloud, we can help organizations reduce costs by up to 60%, which comes in quite reasonable for lots of organizations when they're looking for a solution that will help organizations move to the cloud. For more information, I know this has been really quick, so for more information, feel free to visit us on our website. You can try out our product. That's one of the best things of our product because there is no hardware or software. You can literally just get started within minutes, and within a couple of hours, you can start protecting your entire footprint quickly. Feel free to give us a call and visit our website for any further questions. Having said that, I'll go ahead and give it over to David.
Yes, sir. Great presentation, Shay. Good to have you on. Let's see. We've got some questions here for you. While I ask you those questions, let me pop up this poll question for the audience. It just says, what additional info would you like about the Druva solution? You can select one or multiple answers on there. So let's see, first question that came in, Andre is asking about desktops. Can Druva protect desktops?
So yes, the answer to that question is absolutely yes. We have multiple services. The service that we are talking about here today in my presentation is Phoenix, which helps for physical and virtual infrastructure. The service that you're looking for, in fact, Druva is known to be #1 rated by Gartner multiple years in a row that can help protect laptops, endpoints, which includes laptops, desktops, cell phones, mobile devices, tablets, and also cloud applications including Office 365, G Suite, Box, and Salesforce. That's what we call end user data in the enterprise. Wherever that exists, we also have a service for that. Again, it's also a direct-to-cloud model, and it's a lightweight agent that does global source-side deduplication from the device in itself, and make sure only a single copy of that is stored in the cloud as well. So yes, we do have a solution for that as well. That information is all available under the InSync product service that we have on our website, and the one that I was talking to you about today is called the Phoenix product solution or service.
Okay, nice. You've got it all covered. Let's see, next question here. Does Druva work with both public and private clouds?
Yes, it doesn't matter where your workload is. We can help support it. The only thing is that we are a cloud solution, which means your data, once it's backed up, it will go to the cloud. And we cannot redirect the backups to any particular on-premises hardware. We are built on AWS, and the data will go to the Druva cloud platform. As long as that's okay, the source doesn't matter. We can help protect it on-premises, in the cloud, or in a hybrid posture.
Okay. And here's a clarification question. Does the customer pay Druva for the data that's stored in AWS and that's being protected, or do they pay AWS?
So that's the beauty of our solution. It's a SaaS solution. Organizations only pay for data stored in the cloud, and that payment goes to Druva. You actually don't even have to worry about AWS. At the time of a POC, you tell us what storage location you want to use. We'll set it up for you, and at that point, it just becomes a drop-down menu within the platform, and that's it. So you don't pay AWS any extra bills for our services. It's just a flat fee with Druva, and depending upon what service, you get billed accordingly.
Okay, so I don't have to become an AWS expert to protect my data with Druva?
No.
Okay, nice. Let's see, another question here. Can you explain how global source-side deduplication works? Does all the dedupe happen on-prem before it goes over the network?
That's a good question. The only concern is it could take me about an hour to explain that. Having said that, at a very high level, we separate the metadata from the data for the data that we're trying to back up, and that data is eventually broken down into blocks. Once it's been broken down into blocks, we hash those blocks and check for those particular hashes, whether they exist in the cloud. Because the master or the brains of the whole service resides in the cloud, we just check whether those blocks exist through these hash marks. If the hash marks match, that means the data is in the cloud. We don't send that over to the cloud. And if it doesn't match, that means it's a new copy of the data, and we only send that particular block to the cloud. This way, it is forever incremental. Our file system ensures that it is a forever incremental methodology where we only back up the data one time, and after that, it is incremental data that is ever stored in the cloud. And with the source-side global deduplication, the agent ensures only a single copy of that is stored, and by checking with the cloud whether the data exists or not. This way, we save up to 70–80% of bandwidth when it comes to the amount of data actually moving over the wire once the full backup has done the very first time. After that, it is just very little data that actually gets shipped to the cloud as it's incrementally changing.
Nice, nice. And this person's asking about ingress and egress charges. I know, that comes up often in cloud discussions. Are those included with the model?
Yes, yes, it is. You only pay Druva for the data stored in the cloud. That's it. Restore as many number of times as you want all day long, and you don't get any egress charges as a result. That's something that is very different from other from other solutions that are retrofitting their on-premises software for the cloud that you have to manage in the cloud. So if I give you if my competitor gives you a software that you now actually have to deploy in the cloud, you will get extra bills from AWS for running EC2 instances, for EBS blocks, for storage costs. And then if you want to do a restore, there's an egress cost as well. But with Druva, you're only paying for the service that we're providing, and so there's only the payment from Druva for the amount of data stored in the cloud, and that's it.
I like that. Keeps it simple that way. Here's a question that came in from Tony. Tony's asking, is there a data reporting tool built into Druva to identify what is stored where and the retention for that data?
Sorry, repeat that question again?
Is there a data reporting tool built in Druva to identify what's stored where and what the...
A couple of things. First, the retention policies are completely definable by the organization. At a server level or backup set level, it's completely left up to you how you want to define your backup policy. All those reporting capabilities, in fact, how the storage is being consumed, where is the hot data, how fast is this data being consumed, where is it coming from, what type of data, all those analytics capabilities are built into the platform, and be happy to probably give you a demo at some point. But the whole analytics of where the data is, where is it coming from, how fast is the data changing, which server is it coming from, all of that is in the dashboard, and you can see that through single clicks in the platform.
Excellent. Well, Shay, I think that's all the questions we have for now, but really great presentation. Thank you so much for being on the event today.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
For more information on Druva, of course, visit druva.com and try it out for yourself. It's a SaaS service, so it's really easy to get started. Also, check out the handout that's available there for download in your audience console on the Druva solution. It is a white paper on streamlining virtual machine backups with the public cloud. And with that, it's time for our final gift card giveaway here. I want to first announce, I'll first announce the first gift card winner was Sue Daniels from California. The second gift card winner is Mark Umlauf from North Carolina. Congratulations, Mark, from North Carolina. And the third and final gift card winner is Marty Rollins from Minnesota. Congratulations, Marty, from Minnesota. Before you go, I want to remind you to make sure you check out the 10 on Tech podcast. It's available over in the iTunes store. If you are a potential sponsor of an EcoCast or MegaCast event, feel free to reach out to us at connect@actualtechmedia.com. We would love to chat. And finally, if you'd like to learn about future MegaCast and EcoCast events, we are doing these all the time. Visit events.actualtechmedia.com and register for any and all events that you would like. In fact, one of our biggest events of the year is our virtual summit event, and that's coming up very soon, May 29th, at the end of this month at noon Eastern, and we will have presenters from Gigamon, SaltStack, Igneous, Island, KnowBe4, Western Digital, Clear Sky, Veeam, and many more, as well as independent speakers who are CIOs and authors and experts. So make sure that you join us on that event on May 29th. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the Virtualization Optimization EcoCast event today. I hope you enjoyed the event, and have a great day. Bye-bye.